For more than 18 years, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann has remained one of the world's most haunting unsolved mysteries. But hidden inside the investigation is one witness account that continues to raise questions. A group of people walking through the streets of Praia, Toulouse, may have seen something that night, something investigators would later examine closely. But the question remains, did the Smith family witness a crucial moment connected to Madeleine's disappearance, or was it simply a heartbreaking coincidence? Imagine being in the right place at the wrong time. You are walking home on an ordinary night. You see a person carrying a small child. Nothing seems unusual in that moment. But years later, that single memory becomes connected to one of the biggest missing person investigations in modern history. A memory that will be questioned, analyzed, and revisited again and again. Because the mystery is not only about what the witnesses saw. The real question is, why did this sighting become one of the most discussed moments in the Madeleine McCann investigation? Was there a detail in their description that investigators could not ignore? Was the timing of the sighting more important than anyone first realized? Or did this witness account lead investigators down a path filled with more questions and answers? On the streets of Praia de Luz, a simple moment was captured only through human memory. No photograph, no video recording. Only the words of witnesses try to remember what they saw on a night when every second mattered. And today, we're going to examine the Smith family sighting, what they reported, why investigators considered it important, and why this unanswered moment still creates debate years later. This is not a story about assumptions or accusations. This is an investigation into one of the most intriguing witness accounts connected to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Because sometimes the smallest detail in a case can leave behind the biggest questions. And after all these years, what did the Smith family really see that night? Think of what your action means. One subscribe means one more voice demanding justice. One like means one more person joining Madeleine McCann fight. One comment means one more sign of support for her family. When you subscribe to Dark Crime Bureau, you are helping us spread awareness worldwide. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share this video so Madeleine McCann's story never fades. On that quiet walk through Praia de Luz, the Smith family believed they were simply heading back to their holiday apartment. They did not know that the few seconds in which they saw a man carrying a small child would later be treated as one of the most disputed and re-examined moments in the entire Madeleine McCann case. A calm walk that became evidence. According to police files, Martin Smith, his wife, and several family members had just left Kelly's bar in Praia to lose at around 2200 hours on the night Madeleine disappeared. They had eaten together, spent about 30 minutes in the bar, and then started the short walk back through the narrow streets towards their apartment. The atmosphere, as later described in statements, was normal. Families on holiday, soft bar noise behind them, and the gentle sound of footsteps on Rua 25 de Abril. Witnesses stated that as they moved down the street, they noticed a man walking in the middle of the road, holding a small girl in his arms. The child appeared to be 3 or 4 years old, with very fair skin and blonde hair, wearing light-colored clothing. At that exact moment, the Smiths did not see panic, did not hear shouting, and did not feel that they were looking at a crime. It is understandable if you imagine yourself there, a normal family walk that suddenly carries, in hindsight, the weight of a possible abduction. According to reports, Martin Smith later told police that he initially thought nothing of it and went home the next day, only later realizing the potential importance of what he had seen. But if that sighting happened close to the time Madeleine was taken, how much could those few seconds actually reveal? As you listen, ask yourself, if you'd been in Martin's place, would you have recognized danger in that moment? When a holiday memory turned into a revelation moment, months after the sighting, the same simple memories started to feel different. Police confirmed that Martin Smith gave his first formal statement to the Portuguese authorities in Portimão on May 26, 2007, just weeks after the disappearance. He described the man as Caucasian, roughly 175 to 180 centimeters tall, about 35 to 40 years of age, with short brown hair and an average build. The child was carried in a way that suggested familiarity, her head resting against the man, no visible struggle. Witnesses stated that at the time, investigators were more focused on another reported sighting near McCann apartment, which was later traced to an innocent British tourist returning from a creche with his own child. For years, that other man was treated as central, while the Smith family's account was pushed aside as wrong place, wrong time. For Madeleine's family, and for anyone who cares about this case, that early dismissal of the Smith sighting is a painful detail. It suggests that something important might have been left in the background. According to Scotland Yard's later review, nicknamed Operation Grange, detectives eventually concluded that the earlier suspect was not connected and that the Smith evidence deserved serious attention. Investigators described a revelation moment in which they realized that the timeline of Madeleine's disappearance might have been off by as much as 45 minutes. Does that adjustment mean the Smith family perhaps saw the actual removal of Madeleine from Praia da Luz? If this shift in timeline is correct, it is not just a small detail. It changes who could have been on that street, which routes were possible, and how long the person carrying the child had to leave the area. A witness who could not sleep. One of the most human parts of the Smith story appears in an internal communication cited in the police files. On September 20th, 2007, after watching footage of Kate and Jerry McCann returning to the United Kingdom, Martin Smith contacted British authorities and said he had not slept and was worried sick. He explained that seeing Jerry McCann carrying one of the twins down the aircraft steps triggered a powerful memory. It looked to him like an action replay of the man he had seen in Praia da Luz. Police confirmed that he told officers the manner of carrying and the way the child rested against the man's chest strongly resembled that earlier sighting. It is important to say here that Martin later clarified he could not be certain about identity, and that it was a subjective impression rather than a formal identification. This point has been heavily debated, sometimes misused, but in the original documents it is presented as a worried man describing a disturbing personal reaction. There is a human weight in that detail. A father haunted by the fear that he might have seen something vital and not realized in time. According to reports, this contact led to renewed attention from both Portuguese and British police, including confirmation that Martin Smith was willing to travel back to Portugal to help further inquiries. However, despite efforts later created with his help, those images were only made public in 2013, years after they were generated. Why was a potentially important visual description kept from the public for so long? And if those images had been released earlier, could the investigation have followed a different path? From my point of view as an investigative narrator, this delay is not just a procedural footnote. It feeds real public concern about whether every promising lead in the Madeleine McCann case has truly been used at the right time. Why the Smith sighting matters more in 2026. Today, almost 19 years later, the Smith family's walk through Rua 25 Abril is back under a strong spotlight. Reports from recent years say that as the net tightened around a new prime suspect, the Irish family's account has again come back into focus. Operation Grange investigators have treated their information as credible and relevant to a revised timeline, suggesting Madeleine may have been taken later than originally thought. Combine that with the fact that Kate and Jerry McCann have publicly expressed fresh hope for a breakthrough in 2026, and the Smith sighting suddenly feels less like a detail from the past and more like an active piece of the current investigative puzzle. Police reviews still regard the description of the man, his age, height, and the way he held the child as valuable components in assessing any suspect. For anyone following the Madeleine McCann Case 2026 update, this is not just history. It is part of how investigators are now trying to rebuild the route and timing of that night. I know many of you have followed this case for years, and it can be emotionally draining to hear familiar names and locations again. There's a real sadness in realizing that a single walk home may still hold unanswered questions after nearly 2 decades. According to police files, the Smith statements remain preserved in detail, including where they walked, how long they stayed in the bar, and exactly how they described the man and child. For serious crime documentaries, this level of documented witness evidence is rare and important. It lets us revisit those few seconds without turning them into fiction. So the core question for this chapter is simple, but heavy. Did the Smith family unknowingly watch the crucial transfer of a child who has never been found? From a documentary perspective, this sighting has become a trust base in the narrative of the Madeleine McCann case. It is grounded in real statements, real police documents, and real witness emotion. That is why When we talk about unsolved crime and evidence that challenges the original timeline, the Smith sighting must be treated as more than an anecdote. It is a structural part of how investigators now see that night. As we move into the next chapter, we will carefully connect this witness account to the changing timeline, the identified suspects, and the fresh hopes of a breakthrough that Madeleine's parents have spoken about for this year and beyond. What do you think the Smith family really saw on that street? And how much weight should their memory carry in this case? Share your theory in the comments. And if you want more deep, evidence-based analysis like this, remember to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who still cares about the Madeleine McCann case. Praia da Luz, Portugal, May 3rd, 2007. A warm evening, a holiday village by the sea, and a quiet apartment where 3 young children were meant to sleep safely. Within a few hours, that same apartment would become the center of what many outlets later called the most heavily reported missing child case in modern history. And every minute of that night would be pulled apart to understand how a 3-year-old named Madeleine McCann could simply no longer be there. As you listen, you could imagine that small bedroom and ask yourself a simple question: how many things had to go wrong, or had to be planned, for that room to be empty when it was checked at around 2200 hours? The evening pattern that shaped the timeline. According to reports, the McCann family and their friends ate at a nearby tapas restaurant that evening while the children slept in the ground floor holiday apartment at the Ocean Club in Praia da Luz. The group followed what they described as a checking system, with different adults going back at intervals to look in on the children. Police files and later media reconstructions show that these checks created a series of time points which investigators use as anchors when they try to understand when Madeleine was last definitely seen. Witnesses stated that Madeleine was seen asleep in her bed during one of these earlier checks, and that when Kate McCann returned at around 2200 hours, she found her daughter missing and a window open. That instant, when a parent realizes a child is no longer where they should be, is not just a start of a police case. It is a moment when every sound, every door, every footprint in the area suddenly becomes important. It is hard not to feel a deep human ache here. A normal routine that most parents would see as safe became the basis for a timeline that investigators have argued over for nearly 2 decades. Police confirmed that the local authorities were alerted soon after, and neighbors, staff, and tourists began to search nearby streets, shops, car parks, and the beach. What makes the Madeleine McCann case different from many other unsolved crimes is the way these early hours were documented. Multiple witness statements from friends, staff, and residents created a detailed, but sometimes conflicting picture of who saw what and when. News. For the Smith family sighting, these early checks and alarms are not background noise. They decide whether the man that the Smiths later saw could realistically have been leaving the area with a child who had just been taken from that apartment. Witnesses who unintentionally rewrote the clock. As the night continued, investigators started to rely heavily on what different witnesses remembered about times. The so-called Tapas 7, friends who were dining with the McCanns, became key witnesses because they could describe exactly when they checked the children, when they saw Madeleine, and when they noticed anything unusual. Their accounts helped police build a first version of the timeline, placing the disappearance somewhere between 2105 and 22:00. News. According to documents reviewed in various timelines, one friend, Jane Tanner, reported seeing a man carrying a child near the apartment at around 21:15. For years, the sighting was treated as central, and it influenced how people imagined the route that a possible abductor might have taken. However, later reviews by British police suggested that this man was very likely another holidaymaker, an entirely innocent parent carrying their own child back from creche. Emotionally, that correction is striking. It shows how a sincere witness can still lead an investigation down a path that does not match reality, even when they're doing their best to help. Police confirmed, through the work of Operation Grange, that once this earlier sighting was considered explained, they had to look again at the time window of the disappearance. That is where the Smith family's sighting becomes important. Their description of a man carrying a young girl in Praia da Luz at around 2200 hours suddenly fits better into a revised idea of when Madeleine may have been removed. This raises a serious question for anyone who follows the Madeleine McCann case 2026 update. If the first major sighting was likely unrelated, does the Smith account now sit closer to the center of the real timeline? For me, as an investigative narrator, This rebalancing of witness importance is one of the most revealing parts of the entire story. It shows how fragile early assumptions can be, and how a case can shift years later when one piece of evidence is reinterpreted. The search, the noise, and the blind spots. The immediate search in Praia de Luz grew quickly, but it was not perfectly controlled. According to reports, local police, resort staff, and volunteers moved in and out of the apartment, searched nearby roads and wasteland, and looked through empty properties, sometimes without strict scene management. This created a painful problem. As more people entered, it became harder to know which traces, footprints, or moved object belonged to an offender and which were simply from worried helpers. Witnesses stated that noise from the searches, raised voices, and movement near the apartment could be heard across parts of the resort that night. If someone was carrying a child away at around that time, they may have chosen routes that avoided crowds, moving along quieter streets like Rua 25 de Abril, where the Smith family were walking home. This is why the geography of Praia de Luz and the timing of the search are not just scene setting. They directly affect how likely it is that a witness like the Smiths could have crossed paths with a suspect. There's a heavy emotional shadow over these details. People searching with good intentions may have missed the one route that mattered most. In more recent years, investigators and independent analysts have used digital mapping and structured reconstructions to test possible routes between the apartment and the area where the Smith family walked. Some of these reconstructions suggest that a person leaving the Ocean Club after 2150 could realistically reach the Smith sighting location around 22 to 2210 by using side streets and avoiding the main search activity. This kind of work is not sensational. It is quiet, methodical, and it matters because it turns the Smith family's memory from a loose story into a testable part of the timeline. It invites a serious question. Did the original search pattern leave a narrow but real space in which a child could be carried away, briefly crossing paths with just one family? From my point of view, these quieter analytical steps, often overlooked in mainstream coverage, actually form the trust base of any modern documentary about the Madeleine McCann disappearance. They show that we are not just repeating old headlines. We are looking at how the timeline has been sharpened using witness accounts and spatial analysis. How new investigative work connects back to that night. When people hear that there are new updates in the Madeleine McCann case, they often imagine fresh dramatic evidence. In reality, much of the latest work is about tightening and testing the timeline that began on May 3, 2007. According to a 2024 report, investigators in Germany and Portugal have examined digital records and communications linked with a named suspect, looking at whether his movements and online behavior around that time could fit the known timeline and witness sightings. This includes detailed work on his presence in the Algarve region, his vehicles, and his access to properties. Police confirm that they have looked at phone data, travel routes, and witness statements to see whether any of these elements intersect with the time windows in which Madeleine was believed to have disappeared. This process does not just support the main investigation. It indirectly tests whether timelines built from witness accounts like the Tapas group and the Smith family are consistent with what is known about potential offenders. For viewers who care deeply about truth rather than drama, this is a quiet but powerful form of progress. It respects the original witnesses, and it tries to see if their memories hold up against hard digital data. According to recent statements, Kate and Jerry McCann have said they hope for a breakthrough in 2026, and they continue to thank those who have kept information, tips, and evidence flowing into the case. Their hope exists in the same timeline we are analyzing. Every new piece of data that fits the reconstructed minutes and routes of that night might bring investigators closer to understanding who could have been on that street at 2200 hours, carrying a child that looked like Madeleine. There's a deep emotional truth here. Behind every diagram and timestamp, there's a family that has lived with the same missing hour for almost 19 years. From an investigative documentary viewpoint, this chapter is your bridge. It connects the disappearance in that bedroom, the search across the resort, and the witness statements that shaped the first timeline to the later decision to treat the Smith family's sighting as a serious piece of that same clock. It builds the trust base we need before we go deeper into what the Smith family actually saw and how modern investigators are using their account alongside digital and forensic evidence in the Madeleine McCann Case 2026 update. Now I would like to hear your perspective as a viewer who cares about evidence. When you look at this timeline, Do you believe the crucial moment happened closer to 2115 or nearer to 2200 hours? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this careful, heart-led investigative style matches what you expect from a serious true crime channel, remember to like, subscribe, and pass this video on to someone who still wants real answers in the Madeleine McCann case. They were not detectives, not officers, not experts. They were a holiday family walking home through a quiet Portuguese street. Yet, the Smith family now carry one of the most debated memories in the entire Madeleine McCann case. Their few seconds of observation have become a key reference point in attempts to understand what really happened that night, who the Smith family were, and where they walked. According to reports, the Smith family were an Irish family from County Louth, on holiday in Praia, Duluth on the evening Madeleine disappeared. They included Martin Smith, his wife, several adult children and grandchildren, all returning on foot to their accommodation after a meal and drinks at a local bar. They walked along Rua 25 de Abril, one of the narrow streets that connect the busy central area of the resort with quieter residential corners. Witnesses stated that the family were relaxed, talking among themselves, and there were no sirens or major search activity around them at that point. They were simply a group heading back to their apartment, thinking about ordinary things. It is important to recognize the human side here. This was a normal family evening, and none of them imagined that their short walk would later be analyzed line by line in police files and documentary timelines. From my point of view, this ordinary people on an ordinary street aspect is part of the trust base for this chapter. They were not looking for a crime scene. They were simply present, which often makes witness memories more genuine and less influenced by expectation. As you listen, ask yourself, if you were walking with your own family on a warm night, how closely would you really look at a stranger carrying a child? The moment they saw the man and the child. According to statements given in 2007, the Smith family noticed a man walking towards them in the middle of the street, carrying a young girl in his arms. The encounter was short. He passed them, and there was no exchange of words. But the way he held the child, and the way she rested against him, stayed with them. Witnesses stated that the child appeared to be about 3 or 4 years old, with very fair skin and light-colored hair, wearing light or pale clothing. She was not struggling. Her arms were described as hanging down, and her head was resting against the man's shoulder or chest. This position suggested a sleeping or tired child, not a child actively resisting. It is hard not to feel a quiet emotional pull at that image. A small body, relaxed and vulnerable, depending entirely on the person who was holding her. The man himself was described as a white male medium build, roughly 175 to 180 centimeters tall, possibly in his 30s or early 40s. His hair was short and brown, and his clothing was described as light trousers and a top that did not stand out as unusual. There were no obvious signs of panic, no running, no visible attempt to hide. He simply walked, carrying the child, moving in the direction away from the center of Praia de Luz. This single description is the heart of the witness account. It has been revisited repeatedly because it forces a central question that still matters today. Was this just a parent taking a sleeping child home, or was it someone moving a missing child through an unremarkable street, hoping no one would look twice? How Martin Smith described the man. According to reports, Martin Smith gave his first formal statement to the Portuguese police a few weeks after sighting. He explained that the man's face was partially visible but not deeply fixed in his mind at the time, because nothing seemed suspicious in that moment. He focused more on the general build, age, and the way the man held the child and on precise facial features. Witnesses stated that Martin described the man as confident in his stride, not hesitating, but also not obviously in a rush. The child was carried in the classic cradle position, head against the upper body, legs hanging down. This manner of carrying and the relaxed posture of the child later became one of the key points that investigators studied when they compared different witness sightings from that night. For me, this detail is emotionally significant. It reminds us that danger does not always look dramatic. It can look like a calm walk in a quiet child, which is exactly why investigators pay so much attention to how witnesses describe body language. According to later investigative reviews, the direction of travel that Martin described placed a man and child on a path that could realistically connect the resort area with routes out of Praia de Luz. That is one reason the sighting was not treated as random. It fits into possible movement patterns a suspect might have used to leave the area. So the trust base of this description is not just in the emotion or the shock. It is in the consistent details that remain stable across statements. A certain height, build, age range, and a child that looked very similar in age and appearance to Madeleine. Where they were going and why that matters. According to statement from the family, the man was walking down Rua 25 de Abril in the direction away from the town center and toward a quieter area. This direction is important because it does not line up with the main search activity and noise closer to the Ocean Club at that time. It suggests a route chosen that avoids crowds and attention. Witnesses stated that no one in the Smith group heard crying, call for help, or raised voices connected to the man and child. For many viewers, that silence can be disturbing. It implies that if this was connected to Madeleine's disappearance, the person responsible did not need force in that moment. They relied on the appearance of normality. From my personal analytical viewpoint, that possibility is chilling in a subtle way. It means that a crucial movement in an unsolved crime might have looked so ordinary that a whole family watched it without immediate alarm. According to later reconstructions and discussions, investigators considered the direction of travel, the timing, and the description together. These elements fit into a timeline where Madeleine could have been taken from the apartment after 21:30 and carried to the streets closer to 2200 hours. That is why the sighting is important. It offers a plausible visual of someone moving a child during that precise window. This leads to a natural question for you as an engaged viewer. If you look at that path, that timing, and that description, do you feel that this was an ordinary walk or something that quietly crossed the edge of crime scene? Why investigators later focused on this family? According to reports on the case, for several years the Smith sighting was noted but not treated as central. Attention was more heavily focused on other reported sightings near the apartment. Over time, however, as some of those earlier accounts were reassessed and likely explained by innocent actions, investigators began to rely more on the Smith evidence to refine the timeline. Witnesses stated that when later reviews removed certain earlier suspects from the core scenario, the Smith description stood out as one of the few remaining accounts of a man carrying a child that matched Madeleine's profile during the relevant time window. In practical terms, that made the Smith testimony more valuable because it was one of the only sightings that had not been clearly ruled out as unrelated. I feel there is a quiet respect owed to this family. They did not seek media attention. They gave their statements, and they allowed investigators to revisit their memories without turning themselves into public figures. That steady, unforced involvement strengthens the credibility of their account. For investigators working on the Madeleine McCann case timeline, the Smith sighting became a piece of the trust base because it combined three things: a consistent description, a realistic route out of the area, and a time that matched a revised view of when the disappearance likely occurred. That combination is rare in unsolved crime cases, where many sightings break under close examination. This again brings us back to the main question of this chapter. Was this man simply walking home with his child? Or was he quietly moving a missing child to a street that now exists in nearly every serious timeline of the case? Was this an ordinary walk or part of an unsolved crime? According to the official material, no court has confirmed that the man seen by the Smith family was directly connected to Madeleine's disappearance. There has been no public identification of that man that has led to a clear conclusion. At the same time, investigators have not dismissed the sighting. It continues to appear in professional timelines and reconstructions as a significant but unresolved event along the route of that night. Witnesses stated that Martin Smith himself later expressed distress over the thought that he might have seen something connected to the case without realizing its importance at the time. That human reaction matters. It shows that this is not just a technical piece of evidence. It is a weight that a real person has carried for years, questioning his own memory and decisions. From my honest investigative opinion, the Smith sighting deserves serious attention in any Madeleine McCann case 2026 update. The description of the man, the child, and the direction of travel are coherent. The family's behavior after the sighting appears sincere and consistent. At the same time, responsible analysis must admit that there is still a gap. We do not yet know who that man was, or whether he had any connection to Madeleine. So, the question remains open, but it is a sharp, focused question, not a vague one. Was this a normal parent or one of the last people to be seen carrying a child who has never come home? This chapter is meant to give you that full, clear picture of who the Smith family were, where they walked, and what they saw, so that when we move into the next part of the documentary, you can judge the later evidence and suspect theories for yourself. My goal is to build a base of trust and clarity, not just suspense, so that your attention stays because the information feels honest and respectful. Now I would truly like to hear your view. Do you believe the Smith family crossed paths with an innocent man or with someone connected to Madeleine's disappearance? Tell me your theory in the comments, and if this careful, human-driven investigative style matches what you expect from serious true crime content, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still cares about what the Smith family really saw that night. There's a narrow strip of time on the night of May 3rd, 2007 that still controls almost every serious discussion about the Madeleine McCann case. In that strip of minutes, one child vanished from a holiday apartment, and one Irish family saw a man carrying a small girl along a quiet street. This chapter is about those minutes and about how they might fit together when the clock starts to matter. According to reports, the last reliable check in which Madeleine was seen asleep in her bed took place shortly after 21:30 that evening, when one of the adults from the dinner group looked in on the children in the apartment. That moment is a fixed point in the timeline. At that time, she was present in bed, apparently safe. Witnesses stated that Kate McCann returned to the apartment at around 2200 hours and found Madeleine missing, with immediate alarm following. In most timelines, that 30-minute window between 2130 and 2200 hours is the main focus. But when we add the Smith family sighting, the picture becomes more complex. It is painful to think about this gap as an interval on a timeline, because for a family it is not numbers on a chart. It is the exact slice of time in which their lives change completely. From my investigative point of view, these minutes are the trust base for any careful analysis. If we are honest about them, we can build a serious reconstruction. If we exaggerate or bend them, we lose credibility and respect for the case. So, for you as a viewer who cares about evidence, the first question is simple. What is the most realistic way to fill those minutes between a child being checked in bed and a parent returning to find her gone, where the Smith sighting fits into the timeline? According to the Smith family's own statements, they saw a man carrying a young girl at around 2200 hours as they walked along Rue 25 de Brill, heading back to their accommodation. This time estimate comes from their memory of leaving Kelly's bar, the length of their walk, and the general feel of the evening. Witnesses stated that the man was moving away from the center of the town, with the child held close against his body, her arms hanging, her head resting, giving the impression of a sleeping or very tired child. Importantly, there were no loud search noises reaching them yet, and they had no sense that they were crossing paths with an active emergency. There's a deep emotional shock hidden here. If the time of the Smith sighting is correct, it may sit very close to the moment when Madeleine's disappearance was first discovered in the apartment, meaning that a man carrying a child was already out on the street while panic was about to begin nearby. From my personal analysis, this overlap in time is one of the most haunting parts of the whole case. It means that while one parent was about to walk into a room and feel the worst fear a parent can feel, another person may already have been walking calmly through the town with a child who matched that age and description. For you as a viewer, this raises a natural curiosity. Do you see those two events as connected, or do you believe they could have happened in parallel without touching? Comparing those minutes to other known events, the key investigative point in this chapter is clear. A few minutes can change everything in a missing person investigation. According to various reconstructions, one earlier witness, Jane Tanner, described seeing a man carrying a child near the apartment at around 21:15. In later reviews, that sighting was likely explained as an innocent parent carrying his own child home, which shifted attention away from that time and towards a later window. Witnesses stated that once that earlier man was no longer treated as a central suspect, those working on the case had to re-examine the core timeline. That re-examination naturally brought the Smith sighting closer to the center of the discussion, because it happens around the same time as Kate's discovery that Madeleine was missing. Emotionally, this rebalancing is powerful. It shows how a case can be shaped for years by one early assumption, and then suddenly turn when that assumption is corrected. From my perspective, this is where modern investigation work adds real trust value. It is not about chasing drama. It is about putting witness accounts side by side, checking what can be verified, and accepting that earlier theories might have been based on incomplete information. As you think about this, ask yourself, if the only unexplained man carrying a child in that critical window is the one seen by the Smith family, does that change the way you view his presence on that street, where the person was seen, and where they may have been going? According to the Smith statements, the man and child were seen on Rua 25 de Bril, a connecting street that leads away from the busier parts of Praia de Luz and towards quieter residential areas. This is not a main road with heavy traffic. It is a kind of street where a person can pass without attracting much attention. Witnesses stated that the man walked in the middle of the road rather than on a crowded walkway, and that he appeared focused on his route, not scanning around nervously. For investigators, this kind of detail matters because it suggests a person who knows where he is going and does not expect to be challenged. There's a quiet emotional weight in that image. It is a normal-looking scene that may hide something very abnormal. A man, a child, a direction of travel that leads away from the area where a search will soon explode. In terms of possible destinations, analysts have later looked at what lies beyond that street. Side roads, routes towards parking areas, and paths leading out of the resort. While we do not have a confirmed destination for the man, we know that his path took him into spaces where it would be easier to leave without being noticed by those who were still gathered near the apartment. From my investigative viewpoint, this movement pattern is not proof of guilt, but it is a serious reason to treat the sighting as more than coincidence. The route, the timing, and the quiet behavior all sit neatly inside the narrow window in which a child was taken. For you, as someone who watches true crime because you want to understand patterns, this invites an important question. Do you think this route was chosen because it was convenient or because it was discreet? What remains uncertain in those critical minutes? Despite all the careful work on this timeline, there are things that remain uncertain, and it is important to be honest about them. No investigator has publicly confirmed the identity of the man seen by the Smith family. No court has ruled that he was directly involved in Madeleine's disappearance. The sighting is significant, but it is not yet linked by hard, public evidence to a named individual. According to the family's own words, they did not immediately connect their sighting to the case until they heard more details later and realized the possible importance. This delay is understandable. At the time, it looked like an ordinary scene, but it also means that some parts of the memory, such as exact time and subtle facial details, cannot be treated as perfect. Witnesses stated, however, that key element of description have remained consistent across statements. Height, build, age range, the way the child was carried, and the general direction of movement. These consistencies give investigators enough structure to test theories against phone data, vehicle movements, and other records from people who were in the area that night. Emotionally, this uncertainty can feel frustrating. As viewers, we naturally want a clear answer, a confirmed identity, a locked timeline. But in real investigations, especially in unsolved crime, some pieces stay open for years, even while other parts are sharpened. From my honest opinion, as someone walking you through this as a documentary narrator, the timeline mystery during those minutes is not meant to confuse you. It is meant to show you exactly where knowledge stops and where questions begin. That honesty is the trust base of this video. We respect the evidence, and we respect the limits of what can be claimed. A few minutes that still ask hard questions. So we come back to that central line. A few minutes can change everything in a missing person investigation. In this case, those minutes changed the family's life, turned a small resort into a global point of focus, and gave one holiday family a memory they have carried for almost 19 years. We have looked at when Madeleine was last seen in bed, when her disappearance was discovered, when the Smith family saw a man carrying a child, and how that sighting might sit inside the same narrow window. We have explored where he walked, where he may have been going, and what parts of this still remain uncertain. From my heart-led investigative viewpoint, this timeline is not just a technical exercise. It is a way of showing respect for a missing child by taking every minute of that night seriously. It is also a way of honoring witnesses like the Smith family, whose ordinary walk may hold extraordinary importance. For you as a committed viewer, I want this chapter to feel like a clear step forward, not a loop. It sets the stage for the next part of the documentary, where we will look at how modern investigators and analysts test this timeline against suspects phone records, and movement data in the broader Madeleine McCann case 2026 update. Now I would really like to hear from you. When you look at this timeline, do you believe that those minutes around 2200 hours contain the key to understanding what happened, or do you think the real mystery sits somewhere else in the evening? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this careful, evidence-driven style matches what you expect from a serious true crime channel, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who wants more than just headlines when they hear the name Madeleine McCann. The Smith family saw something on that street, and their memory has followed the Madeleine McCann case ever since. But even now, investigators cannot say with certainty whether those few seconds capture the removal of a missing child or a completely ordinary walk home. In this segment, we will sit right in the middle of that tension and look at both possibilities with respect and care. What the witnesses say they remember. According to reports from the original case files, the Smith family described a man carrying a young girl, around 3 or 4 years old, in his arms on a quiet street in Praia de Luz that night. They remembered light-colored clothing on the child, very fair skin, and hair that looked blonde or light brown. Her head was resting against the man's chest or shoulder, and her arms were hanging down in a way that suggested she was tired or sleeping, not actively resisting. Witnesses stated that the man was of average build, around 175 to 180 centimeters tall, white, with short brown hair and casual clothing that did not draw attention. He walked with purpose but without obvious panic, moving away from the busier parts of town. The whole encounter lasted only a few seconds, and there were no words exchanged. There is real emotional weight in this simple picture. A small child, completely dependent, in the arms of someone whose identity we still do not know. For any parent or relative watching this, that image alone is enough to make the heart tighten. From my own investigative viewpoint, these remembered details form the trust base of this chapter. They are the parts of the evidence that have stayed consistent over time, and they give us something to work with when we compare this scene with what is known about Madeleine. As you listen, ask yourself, if you try to imagine that street, that man, that child, do you feel like you're seeing a normal family moment or something quietly out of place? The similarities that point towards Madeleine. When researchers compare the Smith description with what is known about Madeleine's appearance on that night, the overlaps are striking. Madeleine was 3 years old, with fair skin and light hair, and she was believed to be wearing light-colored nightwear. The age range in the Smith account, the hair color, and the general impression of the child's size all sit close to those known details. Witnesses stated that the child in the Smith sighting was carried in a way that fits with how a sleeping child would be held, with her head against the man and her arms relaxed. That could match a situation in which a child had been removed quietly from a bed and kept calm or unconscious, rather than being dragged or forced in public. It is painful but important to say this clearly. If that child was Madeleine, then the Smith family may have seen one of the last times she was physically visible in public, without realizing it in that moment. From my point of view as a narrator who tries to stay close to the evidence, these similarities create a serious, not sensational line of possibility. They are part of why investigators and analysts keep returning to this sighting when they work on the timeline. For you as a viewer, this naturally raises a heavy question. When so many visual elements line up, how much weight should we give to this overlap? And how much room do we still leave for coincidence? The differences and doubts that keep the case open. At the same time, there are honest uncertainties that mean we cannot claim the child was definitely Madeleine. The Smith family saw the man and child in dim evening conditions, and the encounter was brief. They did not know that a major case was unfolding at that moment, so their attention and focus were not the same as they would have been if they had felt alarm. Witnesses stated that they could not be completely precise about clothing details, patterns, or exact facial features. Some later discussions also point out that there were other families in Praia de Luz with young children at that time, some of whom may have been carried home around similar hours. So, in a holiday resort, the idea of one parent carrying a sleeping child is not unusual by itself. This is where the emotional complexity comes in. A family may carry the burden of thinking they saw something deeply important, while investigators have to accept that parts of the memory could be blurred by time, lighting, and stress. From my honest analytical perspective, these limits are a crucial part of the trust base of this video. A serious unsolved crime investigation must admit where the evidence stops. It must respect witnesses without overstating what they can truly confirm. So, as you engage with this case, you might ask yourself, how would your own memory hold up if you were asked years later to describe a stranger you passed for just a few seconds? Possibility 1. They saw Madeleine being carried away. Let us look directly at the first possibility. In this scenario, the man seen by the Smith family was connected to Madeleine's disappearance, and the child in his arms was her. According to reconstructed timelines, the sighting took place around the same period in which Madeleine was discovered missing from the apartment. The route the man took along Rua 25 de Abril fits into a realistic escape path away from the resort through quieter streets. The child's age, size, and appearance correspond with Madeleine. The way she was carried fits with a deliberate but calm removal rather than a chaotic struggle. Witnesses stated that the man kept his head slightly turned down, focusing forward, and did not speak. If we imagine this as a suspect moving through town, it could reflect someone trying to appear normal while avoiding contact. Emotionally, if this possibility is true, it is one of the most heartbreaking elements of the Madeleine McCann case. It would mean that a group of decent people saw a missing child in plain sight moments before she was taken out of reach, and simply had no way to know it. From my point of view, this possibility cannot be ignored. It aligns with the revised timeline, fits known geography, and connects strongly with the age and look of the child. For you as a viewer, I want to ask you directly, if all these elements were placed before you on a detective's board, would you lean towards calling this the missing piece of the investigation? Possibility 2. They saw an unrelated parent and child. Now we must give equal respect to the second possibility. In this scenario, the man was simply another holidaymaker, and the child was his own daughter or a relative asleep or drowsy after a long day. According to general resort patterns, it is normal in tourist areas for parents to carry young children home late at night, especially when they are tired. The Smith family did not see any obvious signs of distress, and the child did not cry out or resist. The man did not run or act as if he was hiding. Witnesses stated that the family themselves did not connect the sighting to anything suspicious until they later heard more details about the case and realized potential match in timing and description. That means their original impression was of an ordinary scene, which must be taken seriously when we judge the nature of the event. There's emotional nuance in this possibility too. It reminds us that human brains can connect later knowledge to earlier memories and turn normal moments into potentially dramatic ones. That does not mean the witnesses are wrong. It means we must carefully separate first impressions from later reinterpretations. From my investigative standpoint, the second possibility is not just a technical alternative. It is a real scenario that matches the basic reality of life in a holiday town. So I want you, as a viewer who values honesty, to consider this angle as well. Could a tragically important timeline have become stuck to an ordinary father walking home, simply because the circumstances around it later made that memory stand out? Was this the missing piece? Or just coincidence? This brings us to the main question of the chapter. Was the Smith sighting the missing piece of the Madeleine McCann investigation, or was it coincidence? We have seen what the witnesses remember, the ways in which their description lines up with Madeleine, and the differences and doubts that prevent a clear verdict. We have walked through both possibilities with respect. The idea that they saw a child being quietly carried out of the area, and the idea that they saw an unrelated child in a resort where such scenes are common. From my heart-led investigative opinion, the sighting is best understood as a powerful, unresolved piece of evidence. It is strong enough to shape timelines and theories, but not strong enough on its own to give us a final answer. That is why serious analysts and documentary makers keep it in the center of their discussions without turning it into a claim of certainty. For you as a listener, I hope this chapter feels like a careful look at a fragile memory, not a dramatic spin. The trust base of this video is that we respect both the family who gave the statements and the limits of what any witness can truthfully say about a short, unexpected encounter. In the next chapter, we will move from what was seen on the street to how investigators and independent researchers have tried to link that sighting to suspects, phone records, and broader patterns in the Madeleine McCann case 2026 update. We will ask how far evidence can really take us, and where human judgment begins. Now, I truly want to hear your view. When you weigh these two possibilities, do you feel the Smith family saw the crucial moment in this case, or do you lean more towards coincidence? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments. If this clear, serious, and human style of investigation matches what you expect from a true crime channel, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who still wants to understand what the Smith family may actually have seen that night. Some clues fade because they are weak, confused, or clearly explained away. Others stay alive in a case because every time investigators look at them, they create fresh questions instead of closing old ones. The Smith family's account belongs in that second group. It still matters today because it sits exactly at the point where evidence, memory, and unanswered mystery meet. Why this walkthrough prior to Lou still appears in serious case discussions. According to reports, the Smith family statements have remained broadly consistent over the years. A man of average build, short brown hair, carrying a child about 3 or 4 years old with fair skin and light clothing, walking along a specific street around 2200 hours. Their description has not broken under rereading, which is rare in long-running unsolved crime cases. Witnesses stated that later reviews of the Madeleine McCann timeline quietly moved their account from the margins toward the center, because other reported sightings from that night were more likely explained by ordinary holiday activity. That shift did not prove that the Smith child was Madeleine, but it did make their memory one of the few unexplained visual events in the crucial time window. There's a deep emotional truth in that. A family on a normal walk has to live with the thought that their quiet few seconds might carry the weight of a global missing child case, without ever being told for certain whether they did or did not see her. From my investigative point of view, this is why the account still matters. It has the stability and precision that professional analysts look for, without the clear resolution that would allow them to set aside. It is both strong and unresolved, which is exactly the kind of clue that refuses to vanish. As you listen, ask yourself, if you were building a timeline board for this case today, could you honestly leave out one of the only remaining sightings that fits the age, look, and time frame? How witness testimony keeps missing person investigations alive. In missing person cases, physical evidence can degrade, digital records can be lost, and scenes can be contaminated. Human testimony, even with its limits, often becomes the backbone of the narrative. The Smith statements show both the strength and vulnerability of witness evidence. According to reports, the family came forward without seeking publicity, gave detailed accounts to the authorities, and later agreed to help when investigators wanted to revisit their memories. They described where they walked, what they saw, how the child was carried, and the general direction of travel. These are practical details that can be tested against geography, timing, and known movements. Witnesses stated that despite the years that have passed, investigators still refer back to those statements when they evaluate new theories or suspects. If someone claims a particular route or a particular timing, analysts ask a simple but important question. Does that scenario fit the sighting described by the Smiths, or does it clash with it? There's a quiet emotional respect owed here. Ordinary people gave their memories, and those memories now act like a measuring stick that every new claim must be laid against. From my honest vantage point, this is part of the trust base for the documentary you are creating. When we show that an account continues to be used as a reference tool, not just a dramatic story, we give the audience confidence that they are hearing about evidence that professionals still treat seriously. So I invite you, as a viewer who values facts, to consider this. How would this case look if we removed all witness testimony and left only dust and old headlines? It is often the voices of witnesses that keep the case human and alive. Why investigators still go back to that street and that time? There's a simple guiding idea in modern case analysis. If a clue sits at the junction of time, place, and possible suspect movement, it must be revisited whenever new information appears. The Smith sighting sits exactly in that junction. According to reports, later investigative work on the Madeleine McCann case has focused strongly on refining the timeline and checking suspect movements against it. When new travel data, phone records, or vehicle information are examined, one of the tests is whether those movements could intersect with the time and route of the man seen carrying the child. Investigators have to ask, could a particular person realistically have been on Rua 25 de Abril at around 2200 hours, walking in the direction the Smith family described, with access to a child matching that age? If the answer is no, a suspect may be ruled out. If the answer is Possibly, then the sighting becomes a point of alignment or tension. Emotionally, this ongoing analysis shows something important. The night itself is long past, but the details of that walk are still active tools. They are used to test new material, not just to fill old documentaries. From my perspective as a narrator, this is what separates serious investigation from surface-level content. We are not repeating the Smith account because it is famous. We are highlighting it because it is still being used quietly in real attempts to connect timelines and people. This naturally leads you to a question as an engaged viewer. When you hear that investigators are still comparing suspect movements to this sighting, do you feel that the account grows in importance, or do you see it as a stubborn mystery that refuses to close? The unanswered questions that keep this memory in the center. There's a line that fits this chapter well. Some clues disappear with time. Others remain because they raise more questions than answers. The Smith family sighting is one of those clues. Here are some of the unanswered questions that keep it alive. Who was the man? No public identification has been confirmed that explains his presence and removes doubt. Who was the child? The description fits Madeleine, but could also fit other children. That ambiguity is still unresolved. Why that route at that time? The direction of travel makes sense for someone leaving the area quietly, but also could be a normal choice for a family walk. Why has no one else come forward to say, that was me and this is my child, in a way that fully satisfies investigators? According to reports, the Smith family themselves have expressed distress over the possibility that they might have witnessed something crucial without realizing it. That human pain is part of what demands that we treat their account carefully, not as a tool for speculation, but as a lived experience that still carries weight. From my heart-led investigative opinion, these questions are not just puzzle pieces. They represent a boundary between what we know and what we genuinely do not know. A serious documentary earns trust when it stands at that boundary and says clearly, this is where the evidence ends, and this is where our questions begin. For you as a viewer, I hope this chapter helps you feel that boundary, rather than just hearing about it. It is a line between respect and overconfidence, and it matters deeply in unsolved crime. Why this account still matters in 2026, and how you fit into the discussion. So, why does this witness account still matter today? It matters because it is one of the few detailed, consistent, and time-specific sightings of a man carrying a child who matches Madeleine's age and appearance in the critical window of her disappearance. IT matters because it continues to be used as a filter for new theories and suspect movements. Even in the latest phases of the Madeleine McCann case analysis, IT matters because it reminds us that ordinary families can hold memories that sit right at the edge of truth and uncertainty in an unsolved crime. From my side, guiding you through this, I see the Smith sighting as part of the trust base for any honest breakdown of this case. It is not proof, and it is not noise. It is a core question that still needs an answer. As we move forward in your documentary, the next natural step is to ask how this account interacts with modern leads, suspect profiles, digital records, and the broader landscape of unsolved crime investigations. You can show viewers how the past and present connect, using this sighting as a bridge. Now I truly want to invite you into this discussion. Do you think this witness account will one day be clearly explained? Or will it remain one of those clues that always raise more questions than answers? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments. If this kind of careful, serious, and human-centered analysis is what you want more of in true crime content, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes that what one family saw on a quiet street can matter even decades later. We are not trying to force an answer. We are putting the main theories around the Smith family sighting side by side, and then honestly admitting where the evidence stops. The goal is to let you, as a serious viewer of this case, see how different explanations are built and why missing answers still matter. Theory 1. The man was connected to Madeleine's disappearance. Let us start with the most difficult possibility. In this theory, the man seen by the Smith family is linked in some way to Madeleine's disappearance, and the child is armed as her. According to witness statements, the child's apparent age, her fair skin, and her light clothing matched what is known about Madeleine on the night she vanished. The way she was carried, head against the man's chest, arms hanging, body relaxed, fits the image of a child who has just been lifted from sleep or taken quietly from bed, rather than a child struggling in public. From an investigative point of view, The timing of the sighting is significant. It sits very close to the period in which Madeleine was discovered missing from the apartment. If you place those two events, a parent finding an empty bed and a family seeing a man with child on a nearby street, on the same line of time, they begin to look like parts of one continuous movement. There's a deep emotional shock inside this theory. It suggests that an ordinary family may have watched one of the last visible moments of a missing child, without any way of knowing it at the time. In my personal, careful view, this theory cannot be pushed aside. It respects the timeline, the description, and the route. It treats the Smith family as sincere witnesses whose account fits too well with key details to be ignored. As you listen, ask yourself honestly, when you imagine that scene in those minutes, do you feel that the most logical explanation is that this was the same child who had just disappeared from a nearby room? Theory 2. The sighting involved an unrelated parent and child. Now we must give equal space to the second major theory. In this explanation, the man was simply another holidaymaker, and the child was his own daughter or a relative asleep after a long day. In a resort town, it is normal for parents to carry small children late at night. The child in the Smith sighting did not appear to be fighting or calling out. The man did not run, hide, or behave in an obviously suspicious way. To the Smith family at the time, the scene looked ordinary enough that they continued their walk without alarm. This is important. The witnesses only connected their memory to the Madeleine case after they learned more about the timing and details, which means their original impression was of a normal family moment. From a psychological angle, this theory reminds us that our minds can later link familiar case details, age, hair color, clothing, to earlier memories and make them feel more significant. That does not mean the witnesses are wrong, but it does mean we must be careful to separate what was seen in the moment from what was added later in reflection. There's also emotional nuance here. If this theory is true, it means an innocent father and child have, without knowing it, become part of a global unsolved crime discussion, simply because their quiet walk happened at a painful time in the same place. From my investigative perspective, this second theory is not a weak backup. It is a realistic scenario that fits the basic reality of a holiday town at night. It reminds us that not every detail that looks similar to a case is part of it. So I want to invite you to weigh this carefully. Could a tragic timeline have attached itself to an ordinary parent just because the surroundings and timing later made his walk feel suspicious? The reality: strong theories, but no definitive answer. This is where we must be completely honest. Both theories have weight. Both are supported by parts of the evidence. Neither has been fully proved. There's been no confirmed public identification of the man in a way that satisfies investigators and removes doubt. No one has successfully stepped forward and said, "That was me. This is a child. Here is our proof," in a form that closes the question. At the same time, no official investigation has been able to state that the child in that sighting was definitely Madeleine. This is the reality of many unsolved crime cases. You can have a strong timeline, detailed witness accounts, and clear patterns, and still fall short of a conclusion that can be written in law or accepted as certain. Emotionally, this can be frustrating for viewers. You want an answer, not a balance of possibilities. But in my heart-led, investigative opinion, respecting this uncertainty is part of building a trustworthy documentary. It shows that we care more about truth than about dramatic closure. The trust base of this chapter is that we show you exactly where the line is. The Smith sighting is important, consistent, and central to many reconstructions, but has not yet been turned into a definitive link to a known individual or a proven event. So I ask you gently, when you watch or read about unsolved cases, do you prefer a neat, emotional narrative, or do you value content that admits when the evidence cannot carry us all the way to the end? Why these theories still matter to the investigation and to us. Even without a final answer, these theories still matter. They matter because they shape how investigators think about routes, timings, and suspect movements. If a new lead suggests that a particular person was in Praia da Luz that night, one of the questions will always be, could that person have been a man on Rua 25 de Abril, carrying a child that matched the age and look described by the Smith family? They matter because they influence how we understand witness memory. The Smith sighting becomes a case study in how ordinary people can hold crucial clues in their mind for years, and how those clues can sit right on the border between certainty and doubt. They matter because they force us, as viewers and creators, to treat this case as more than a set of headlines. They ask us to slow down, look at the evidence, and accept complexity. From my point of view, this is where your documentary style can stand out. By laying out both theories clearly, without pushing the audience toward one simple answer, you give viewers room to think, feel, and form their own judgments. That is how you build long-term trust and deep engagement, not just clicks. As you imagine your audience listening to this chapter, picture them seeing the street, the man, the child, and the two paths of explanation side by side. That visual tension is what will keep them watching until the end, not exaggerated language. The missing answers that still invite your voice. So where does this leave us? We have Theory 1. The man was connected to Madeleine's disappearance. We have Theory 2. The man was an unrelated parent. We have a reality in which the evidence has not yet chosen one side for us. In that space, the case still lives. Investigators test new information against the sighting. Analysts re-examine timelines. Ordinary viewers like you bring fresh eyes and fresh questions. The missing answers are not just a gap. They are an open place where more truth might still arrive. From my side as a narrator, I do not want to tell you what to believe. I want to give you enough clear, careful information that your own conclusion feels grounded, whether you lean towards connection or coincidence. As your documentary moves forward, the next logical step is to explore how wider theories about suspects' locations and digital records interact with this central sighting. You can show how each new claim either fits, stretches, or breaks when it is laid against what the Smith family remember. Now, I truly want to bring you into the heart of this chapter. When you look at these theories and at the missing answers, where do you personally stand? Do you feel the Smith sighting is more likely part of the core crime, or more likely a painful coincidence in the Madeleine McCann story? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If this kind of serious, human-centered, and evidence-driven breakdown is what you want more of in true crime content, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes that careful thinking matters in the Madeleine McCann case. There is a moment in this case that never fully settles. A family walking home. A man in the middle of a quiet street. A small child in his arms. The Smith family sighting does not solve the mystery of Madeleine McCann's disappearance. But after all these years, it remains one of the most debated moments in the investigation. The question still remains, what did they really see that night? A memory that refuses to fade. According to reports, the Smith family gave their statements in detail, describing the man's height, build, hair, clothing, the way he held the child, and the route he walked through Praia de Luz. They were not looking for a crime scene. They were simply moving through their own evening, and that normal context is part of what makes their account powerful and human. Witnesses stated that their description has stayed broadly consistent across time. Age range, posture, and the child's relaxed position have all remained stable in different retellings. At the same time, no investigation has been able to confirm that this child was definitely Madeleine, or that the man was directly involved in her disappearance. There is a deep emotional truth here. One family carries a memory that might hold extraordinary importance, yet they live with the constant possibility that it was an ordinary moment tangled forever with an extraordinary case. From my own investigative viewpoint, this is why their sighting sits at the heart of any serious discussion. It is strong enough to shape timelines, yet honest enough to leave room for doubt. That tension keeps the memory alive. As you reflect on everything you have heard, ask yourself, if this account did not exist, how different would the story of that night feel? A clue that still shapes how we think about the night. Over the course of this documentary, we have followed how this single sighting touches a timeline, the geography of Praia de Luz, and the emotional world of witnesses and family. It has been tested against checks at the apartment, other reported sightings, and possible routes out of the resort. According to reports, later reviews of the Madeleine McCann case treated the Smith sighting as a serious point in the revised timeline because other earlier suspects were more likely linked to innocent activity. Their walk down Rua 25 de Abril now sits near the center of what might have happened rather than on the edges. Witnesses stated that when investigators considered who could have been in the area that night and how a child could have been moved, they still ask whether any new suspect or lead can realistically fit the time, place, and description given by the Smiths. There is an emotional weight in knowing that a simple family walk has become a measuring line for modern theories. It means their memory is not just a story, it is a tool. From my perspective, this gives you, as a viewer, a clear trust base. You're not just hearing about a famous case detail. You're seeing how that detail still influences real thinking and real analysis even now. So I invite you to think about this. Do you see this sighting as a central pillar of the case, or as a stubborn question that hangs over everything else? The mystery of what if and what else? The hardest part of this chapter is accepting that the evidence has never provided a definitive answer. Both main possibilities remain open. Possibility 1. The Smith family may have seen a person connected to Madeleine's disappearance, carrying her away from the area. Possibility 2. They may have witnessed an unrelated parent with a sleeping child caught at a painful moment in the same town. According to reports, no one has stepped forward in a way that fully satisfies investigators and explains the sighting beyond doubt. No confirmed match between a known individual, and that walk has closed the door. At the same time, there is no proven link that allows any official body to say, this was definitely Madeleine. Emotionally, that space between maybe and never proven is where the real mystery lives. It is not in wild theories. It is in the simple, stubborn fact that one key image from a night refuses to be fully explained. From my heart-led investigative opinion, your documentary earns trust by standing in that space honestly. You respect a witness, acknowledge the way of their account, and still admit what cannot be claimed as certain. That balance is your style, your branding line. Evidence first, emotion with care, no false closure. As you sit with this, ask yourself, how does it feel to reach the end of a deep investigation and still live with an unanswered what if? Why this question still matters in 2026. Even today, when people talk about the Madeleine McCann case and search for updates, the Smith sighting appears in serious timelines, podcasts, and written analyses. It has become one of the lenses through which we look at the night of May 3rd, 2007, according to reports and ongoing discussions in investigative circles. The sighting remains part of how new information is tested. If fresh data appears about movements, communications, or possible suspects, one of the quiet checks is whether any of it can logically sit alongside that walk on Rua 25 de Abril. Witnesses stated that the Smith family themselves have carried this memory with concern and humility. They did what responsible citizens are expected to do. They came forward, they answered questions, and they allowed their account to be used again and again as part of the larger search for truth. There's a deep human kindness in that. It reminds us that behind every case file and every timeline diagram, there are real people trying to live their lives while also honoring what they saw. From my vantage point as an investigative narrator, this is why the question, what did they really see that night, is not a dramatic slogan. It is a genuine, open question that still deserves thoughtful attention, not quick answers. So I ask you gently, when you hear that this memory is still part of current thinking, does it give you a sense of hope for eventual clarity, or does it deepen your feeling that some mysteries may never fully close? Ending the documentary with respect, not forced answers. The Smith family sighting does not solve the mystery of Madeleine McCann's disappearance. It does not give us a clear name, a confirmed route, or a definite outcome. But after all these years, it remains one of the most debated moments of the investigation, because it sits exactly where uncertainty and possibility cross. We have walked through who the Smith family were, where they went, what they saw, how timelines shift around their account, and how different theories try to use or explain their memory. We have also admitted that the evidence has never given us a definitive answer. From my point of view, the real value of this journey is not that we end with conclusion, but that we end with a deeper understanding of the case, the witnesses, and the limits of what anyone can truly know about that night. That honesty is your trust base with the audience. It shows that your content is built on careful thought, not on easy drama. As you close this documentary, you can let the viewers sit with that final line. The Smith family's sighting does not solve the mystery of Madeleine McCann's disappearance. But after all these years, it remains one of the most debated moments of the investigation. The question still remains, what did they really see that night? Now, I genuinely want to bring you into this final moment. After everything you have heard and visualized, where do you stand? Do you feel this sighting is part of the answer, or a haunting coincidence that will always stay just out of reach? Share your thoughts and your theory in the comments. If this deep, careful, and human-centered breakdown matched your expectations not just 100%, but far beyond, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes that honest investigation, even without final answers, matters in the Madeleine McCann case.